Well, after 6 months of using Apple's largest tablet, what more is there to say? There's definitely things that you can pick up need improvement after you've used something for a while. Nothing's ever perfect. But before I go into that, I have to say, I use this thing every day and I don't regret buying it ever. Never for a second. Mostly because when I did the 30-day review of it, I got a lot of subscribers. And it's also a really great product. Now, I'm gonna save all the great things about it for later because we all know Apple Sheep likes his iPad. There's no mystery there. We get it. What I'd like to see in the upcoming iPad Pro 2, which apparently isn't gonna look very different, is a bit more diversity in terms of the accessory department. I'm sad to say I never decided to get the smart keyboard for a couple of reasons. For one, it's very, very expensive. Apple accessories tend to be that way. But I mean, seriously, the smart keyboard is more expensive than an Apple TV. And I don't think the virtual keyboard is that bad, which is the second reason I didn't get one. The iPad Pro works great on its own without having to buy some accessory keyboard, which despite what a ton of people think, you do get used to it after a while. And if you do use the full-size virtual keyboard for a couple of months, you start to realize it's barely any different from a regular keyboard. I can type just as fast, if not faster, on the virtual keyboard than I can on any physical keyboard. It just takes the brain a little bit to rewire because nothing's, being pressed down, but functionally that doesn't ruin anything. Plus, with a virtual keyboard, it can turn into a trackpad when you need it to. When you put 2 fingers down, it turns into a mouse, which helps a lot when you're trying to tell the iPad where you want to type. But the third reason I didn't want to buy a smart keyboard was because there is only one color, and it's not even a color. It's just kind of gray, which Apple goes with this gray silicone texture for a lot of their stuff. But if you couldn't tell, my color scheme has always been red and black, space gray. And that gray color I just don't like at all because it's so bland and not very fashionable. Doesn't go with my style. A big pro to the Surface Pro 4 is that their keyboards are very diverse. You can get them in different textures and colors, and they're very, very stylish. And I wish the iPad Pro had that same kind of lineup. I wish the people who designed Apple Watch bands would design smart keyboards, because there are so many different kinds of Apple Watch bands, and yeah, they would be very expensive, but I just want that same silicone texture in red. And even then, yeah, it would be pretty expensive, but spice it up a little bit. I have used a smart keyboard, in case you're wondering. A friend of mine owns one, and I used it for a little while, and I liked it. It's still pretty portable of a keyboard. It doesn't add too much weight to the tablet, and adds that physical keyboard that lots of people love. And then there's that other very controversial Apple accessory, the Apple Pencil. I kind of have a very similar complaint here as well. The white Apple Pencil fits really well with the white iPad, but the most common tablets are actually still in space gray. Most people buy this kind. I know because when I bought it, they had gold and silver all the time, but space gray was always sold out. To get things matching, can't we also have a black Apple Pencil? Can you imagine how cool that would be to go with your space gray iPad Pro? Because a long time ago, a wise man once said, "I have a dream that our styluses will match our tablets in the same color design." I want to honor that man's dream. Stop being racist with your stylus colors. There's also the big issue of how we transport this stylus, because it is the biggest one I've ever seen. There might be a bigger one out there, I just don't know. And it's not easy to strap onto the side of most cases. The Surface Pro 4 had a good idea of having a magnetic attachment to the side of the tablet, but then again, I complained of the placement of it because every time I wanted to pick it up, I would break it off when I didn't mean to. And the Surface Pro has that kickstand, so it's kind of always like use it this way. Whereas on the iPad Pro, you can kind of use it in any orientation, so I don't think a magnetic thing on the side would be as useful. I'd rather love to see an intelligently designed case where maybe it has a little slip in the back with a button to seal it so it doesn't fall out. And yeah, if you laid it flat, it might wobble a little bit, but I just want to see some kind of effort put in as to here's the way how you transport it, other than just leaving it in your pocket, which is what I ended up doing for a lot of the time. Most stylus cases have a little loop right here, and for when the iPad is open, this is fine, but when you close it up, this little buckle pushes it out, and it's not thought through. I just want to see some kind of solution. Apple's got lots of smart people, they can think of something. Now, as we get into my praises of the iPad Pro, remember something. All my complaints are things you don't have to buy for the iPad to be used in its full potential. I hate to bring up the Surface Pro again because I know so many of you love it, but it's a so-called tablet that wants you to buy a lot of things for it to actually work to its full potential. If you don't buy the Surface keyboard or some keyboard and a mouse for that Surface Pro, you are missing out on a ton of things that it can do. I know because I tried to edit with Adobe Premiere without a keyboard and mouse just to see if it was possible, or use tons of other desktop apps, After Effects, Photoshop, or even just like iTunes. It was rather difficult. It was not optimized like it was possible, but should I be doing it? It was not thought out, and that's why it's not very Apple-esque, because Apple wants hardware and software to work seamlessly together. Apple made sure if you buy this iPad, just the iPad, nothing else attached, you are getting everything you need. The virtual keyboard on here was not some last last minute idea that maybe if they don't buy the keyboard, I guess they can use this. The Surface Pro keyboard didn't even go to the edge of the screen, and it doesn't go away when you're done typing things. It's like because they didn't expect anyone to use it. They were all assuming everyone will buy the Surface keyboard, which to me makes it a laptop, but I don't want to get back into that discussion. The keyboard, the virtual one on the iPad Pro, goes edge to edge, and it's still very functional. Every app you can get on here runs well on its own. It doesn't say buy this accessory. In fact, Apple really doesn't let any app developer say you have to buy this accessory for your app to work. They do it for some health apps, but like on the Apple TV, they didn't say that an app developer could require you to use a game controller. It has to work with the given product, just the regular remote. Because Apple doesn't want you to buy a whole bunch of accessories for it to work. Just buy it once, you're good. And the apps that are optimized for the iPad Pro, which there's a ton now, it's built for the touch interface and it looks great. Everything feels really smooth, even the third-party apps. And I've never got the feeling of something being tacked on last-minute idea. And I guess we'll add this, where I got that a lot on the Surface Pro. It wasn't thought through. And I cannot tell you how great it is to use this thing without the case on. The edges are smooth, it's light. Despite what other people say online, they call the iPad Pro heavy. What? When you watch videos or listen to music, the speakers on this thing are incredibly loud and pretty crisp audio. It's great for everyday uses, and of course, working with your iPhone. AirDrop is still my absolute favorite feature. And for some of those pro users who buy the Apple Pencil, you can do incredible artwork. You get access to the incredibly diverse app store with tons of optimized apps that look great, run great, instead of having two stores, as in everything a desktop can do and the barren Windows store. You're getting one store with tons of things. See, you know, the big weakness that the iPad Pro has that Surface Pro users like to bring up is that it can't run desktop apps. Like, why can't it run Mac OS? Then I would buy it. My point is, this is a tablet, not a keyboard and mouse dependent computer. So instead of dragging over desktop apps to a smaller touchscreen, why not redesign the app so it's still productive and be optimized for a large 13-inch multi-touch screen, instead of just saying buy a keyboard and mouse and use it on the multi-touch screen? What's the point of that? Then why have a touchscreen? This worked on a ton of apps like GarageBand, which you can do amazing things with. A lot of people think it's just for everyday users, but it is extremely customizable. iMovie, which I've edited a ton of my videos on, popular ones that people were like, hey, I like your editing style. Adobe Photoshop Sketch, which gives you amazing artwork control. They can do desktop-like things, but in a redesigned way that's more personal. That's what Steve Jobs always said about the iPad. Of course, desktops have the benefit of like 30 years of pre-existing styles and software. Programs have been designed to be run with a keyboard and mouse for a long time, so there's tons of programs that are supported for desktop. But as tablets get more powerful, I'd love to see more apps treat the tablet as a serious workstation. In my case, I'm begging for a Final Cut Pro app that's only on the iPad Pro because it's so customizable and needs lots of power, that has tons of video editing tools and export settings that can pump out some serious pro-looking video. And if not Final Cut, then just some other company. Someone. I've used iMovie, I've used Pinnacle Pro, so stop asking me to use it. I know what they're capable of. And I hope that with the iPad Pro 2, we can get that boost in speed, we can get that boost in RAM, and put some video editing tools on there that can do everything a desktop can do. So in conclusion here, Apple makes sure their software and hardware work well together, which is why I don't think they're ever going to put Mac OS on the iPad. Those apps and those programs on there are not optimized for the multi-touch experience. That's for keyboard and mouse. So instead of trying to make some awkward hybrid that isn't good at doing both, let's make two separate but very capable forms of computing. When the touch interface gets as powerful as a desktop, you may be surprised which one is able to pull out the better experience. Only time will tell. So let me know what you think they should add on the iPad Pro 2. Apparently it won't look very different. Hopefully it doesn't have that camera bulge that they put on the 9.7-inch iPad Pro, which should have been called the iPad Air 3. I'm sorry, I never got over that. I never did, and I don't think I ever will. I'm just gonna be mad forever. Okay, I'll stop. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.